St. Matthew's Lutheran Church in North Hollywood has a long history of working for equity for persons on the margins. During the 1980s, during the AIDS crisis, St. Matt's was one of the first Lutheran churches that welcomed persons who identified as LGBT, and this congregation was very active in ministering with people with HIV/AIDS during that AIDS crisis. In the first years of the 21st century, St. Matt's developed the only Lutheran deaf ministry west of the Ozarks. And more recently, we've been doing a lot of work in the community around homelessness and economic equity, creating a space of welcome for persons who are unhoused. So I was personally moved to commit our congregation to do anti-racism work, in part because of one friend of our congregation. This young man had been worshiping with us and met with us in various ways. And shortly after the murder of George Floyd, he called me with the help of an interpreter, because this young man is deaf. He's also gay, and he's also housing insecure. And he called me up in anguish to say, why isn't the church doing more to fight racism? Now, my first response, like so many white people, was a little defensiveness. And I said, well, I went and marched, right? I preached about George Floyd. I preached about racism. But then I remembered and felt his anguish and realized that that was just scratching the surface, and that there is so much more that especially the church not only can do, but needs to do.
So I've lived in a couple of Asian countries, but in Japan in particular, I totally loved Japan. Japan was wonderful, people were friendly, people were welcoming, really, really good experience. But every time I rode the subway, beautiful subway, very clean, completely full of advertising, and every time I looked up, all of the people in the ads were Asian. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but that really was the one place that reminded me I don't belong here. And that when I started thinking about that, I sort of wondered, are we giving that impression at the church when, you look around and all of the art is white Jesus, and then you look up in the front and we have a white pastor. I don't want to put words in anyone else's mouth. I have no idea how other people feel about it, but I know how I felt in Japan, and I want to make sure that's not the message that we're giving here.
It was really important to me that we find a way to create pathways for systemic change. Because I think that is what we're called to. I think that's what Jesus calls us to, is really to transformation. And so we formed a racial equity group to be the curator of a process for this congregation to look at racism in ourselves and in our congregation, in the church, but also in our community.
For independent experiences, it's not enough. It's got to be, that shock has to stay with you. That it's time to do something and to stay in that mode of taking action and not being part of the problem by being inactive.
And to identify that I really do fall among those who are contributing to the problem.
A lot of the work that has to be done by white people.
It's the fact that there are people that I can talk to about these things, that I can, if I have a particularly meaningful experience, or I see something or do something. I mean, several times it's happened where I've done something and after that I realize, oh my gosh, what I just did was really racist. That I can have people that I can talk to about it.
It really began in me something that I guess I longed for and I never knew it.
So we started the racial equity group because people in our pews have committed to doing this work in this congregation over the long haul.
We want everybody to walk in the door and know that you're one of us. And it's not just words. The racial equity group, we want that to be known as like, oh, St. Matthew's, they're the ones where everybody is welcome there. And we really mean it, and you feel it when you walk in the door.
We're trying to open up the doors even wider.
We don't think about these things. If we don't do these things, it's just going to get worse. And the fact that we've lasted about a year means something.
I'm just so fortunate and happy. We both are fortunate to be here.
And I'm just so grateful, so profoundly grateful for the people of St. Matt's who have declared themselves willing in very vulnerable ways and self-incriminating ways to do this work, at least to try to bring our congregation, our institution, our community forward.